Okay, to solve this equation by completing the square, we have two things that we need to do first before we start the completing the square process. The first thing is we need to move the constant term, the 9, over to the other side of the equation. That will give us 3x squared plus 6x equals 9. The second thing that we need to do is we need to get rid of the 3, or the coefficient in front of the x squared term. We're going to do this by dividing everything we have by 3 on both sides. And when we reduce these fractions, we get x squared plus 2x, I'm going to leave some space, equals 3. Just a warning, every once in a while when we do something like this, we end up with a fraction, and those can be trickier problems. But happily for right now, all of our fractions reduced to nice whole numbers. So here are the two steps to the completing the square process. First step, we're going to take the coefficient of the x term, which is the 2, and we're going to halve it, cut it in half. So 2 divided by 2 by cutting it in half. And of course, when we do that, we get a result of a 1. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to take the result we got from step 1, the 1, and we're going to square that. Okay, so the two steps again for completing the square: take the coefficient of the x term, cut it in half, and then square that result. Now this result right here, this 1 we get out when we do those two steps, we want to add this to the end of the left-hand side of the equation, giving us a nice factorable trinomial. However, we can't just add the 1 wherever we feel like it, so we need to add 1 to the other side to balance that equation. Okay, here was the point of doing that. Now, including that red plus 1, x squared plus 2x plus 1 factors, and it factors to x plus 1 times x plus 1, or in other words, x plus 1 squared. And then on the right-hand side, we have 3 plus 1, which is 4. Okay, we are just about finished. The whole point of getting something that's parentheses squared, like we have over here on the left, is so that now we can solve using the square root property. So we're going to take the square root of both sides of that equation. And if you remember, when we take the square root of both sides of the equation, we always need to put a plus or minus on one side. Now when we reduce that, what we get, the square root and the square on the left-hand side of the equation cancel, and we're left with an x plus 1. Happily, they were nice enough to us here to give us a 4, so plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2, plus or minus 2. All right, now we're just about finished isolating x. The only thing we have left to do in that regard is to subtract that 1 from both sides of the equation, leaving us with x is equal to -1 plus or minus 2. And this gives us two pretty easy to calculate answers. We've got x is equal to -1 plus 2, and x is equal to -1 minus 2. -1 plus 2 is 1. There's our first answer. -1 minus 2 is -3. And there's our second answer, and we're done.